Hi, my name is Dee Cowell, and I'm going to show you how to stretch some watercolour paper. I find paper that is over 140 pounds or 300 grams per square metre doesn't actually need to be stretched, but anything below that definitely will need to be stretched. I'm using brown tape, and it's gummed on one side. And what you need to do is to use two sponges with this gummed paper. What you're going to try and do is not get any of the gum onto your watercolour surface. So one sponge will be to work with the gum and one sponge will be to work on the paper. So the first thing I'm going to do is just measure twice the width of the paper, like that. It doesn't have to be tremendously accurate, but so long as it goes on either side, you're fine. And I put that top and bottom. And then I'm going to take that measurement and just double it, and then put that on either side as well. And just get that prepared and ready before you start. I normally soak my paper, but you can also just take a little water and tip it onto your paper, and then with the one sponge that's just going to work with the paper, keep the whole thing very, very wet. You can also wet both sides, which is not a bad idea. You do want to get the paper sopping wet. Give it a minute or two so that the water does soak in. And while you're waiting for it to soak in, you can start dampening the gummed paper. So I'm going to use the blue sponge for that, and I'm going to just dip the blue sponge into the water and then wet the gum side of this paper and keep that sponge over there, and then just slide it onto your paper and let it take up about 1/2 inch or 2.5 centimeters, and then onto the blue paper, the blue sponge again, just wet this gum side of the paper and then bring it down over the wet paper. And this is where I'll use the yellow sponge. Well, it can be any colour, but it's just to press the paper flat. Now back to the blue sponge. You can see why I'm using two different colours now, because it would be very confusing if they were both the same colour. And then put that on there and press it down. And now we're on our last one. And so we're just going to wet it very briefly. Okay, so it doesn't have to, you don't dip it in the water or anything like that. It is very sticky. And then we're going to put it on this side here and just get it nice and straight. Use this sponge to stretch the paper, get it in place. And you allow this to dry, and it must dry flat. And it will draw any cockling out and have it completely flat and as tight as a barrel. And then here's one that I did earlier, and now that it's dry, I can paint on it on the board, and when I'm ready to take it off, all I do is use a blade or the edge of the scissors and just snip the paper and take it off, and it's ready for framing. So that's how you stretch watercolour paper.